My name is Paul, I am 13 years old. We used to be a happy family. My dad was called an engineer, my mom was a teacher at a school near our home. I am an only child, and my grandmother takes care of me while my dad and mom were at work, or somewhere else. We used to go to parks, all four of us. Those were the happiest moments of my young life. Also the times when we just watched TV at home munching on anything we can put into our mouths. Grandma cooks good food and we were like having a feast almost every day. Sundays were always a day to look forward to. After Mass, we go to the park or wherever Mom or Dad wants to see. Grandma usually tags along, but sometimes she does not feel like traveling and she prefers to go back home and rest instead of coming with us. When I started going to school, everything started to change. Dad's going to other places took longer, not only for a few days but for weeks, sometimes a month, or even more. All visits to parks and other places stopped, as well as coming to church. It was just me, Mom, and Grandma, and it became more seldom. The time came when it was only Grandma who regularly go to church on Sundays. Sometimes she'd bring me with her, especially if Mom is not at home. Whenever Dad comes back home, we do not watch TV together anymore. He was always reading or working on his phone or computer. There was lesser laughter in the house. Later, Mom and Dad's arguments became more frequent. It was like they were fighting over almost everything. I heard my name during one of their fights and I asked them not to fight anymore and that I am sorry for whatever I have done that has caused them to fight. In one swift swing of his arm, Dad threw all the things on his table and left the room, closing the door loudly. I couldn't forget that scene, it is so vivid to me even now. I never saw Dad so angry and violent. It was only this very time, and I guess I will remember it for the rest of my life. When I woke up the following morning, Dad was gone and so many of his things. Mom's face was so different and reddish and she did not eat breakfast with me and Grandma. I waited every day for Dad to come home. Grandma will always just say he is working far away again. Mom and Grandma never talk about Dad and they just mention him whenever I asked about him. And they just say the same thing, Dad is working in a far place. I was just wondering why he do not even call. After the few months, Dad called finally. I cried and told him how I miss him and I wanted him home. He said he cannot leave work and that I should just take good care of myself and study hard. He promised that he will call from time to time to check on me. The following day, a neighbor told me that he saw Mom and Dad in a restaurant in the city writing on or signing papers. When Mom came home that night, I asked her about it and why Dad did not come home and see me. Mom replied, when I grow up, I will come to understand everything. She also said she and Dad had some settlements. Dad will not be coming home to live with us anymore. He might also be having a new family soon. But I have her and Grandma to take care of me, and Dad will call or see me from time to time. I cried. And I just do not want to stop crying. Dad will not be living with us anymore and I will see him less and less. Worse, he will have a new family. But what about our family? What about me, your son? Will I not be his son anymore? How are we going to live without Dad coming home anymore? No more Christmas, no more parks together. I do not want to go to school anymore, but Grandma was too kind and loving to make sure that I do my homework and that I go to school on time. At home, she was always by my side. And so, I noticed the thing that she was always holding, the rosary beads. She said she loves to pray it. And so, I hear more and more from Grandma, about Jesus, about Mary. That Sunday, Grandma insisted that the three of us go to church. And so, our Mass every Sunday became regular again. Sometimes we go also to the park or shop, though not every week. I began doing good in school again. And I also wanted Dad to know that I am studying hard, just like he told me to. Grandma also began teaching me how to pray the rosary. We began praying together before going to sleep. One night, I asked Mom to pray with us, and she did, starting that night. One Sunday before Mass, the priest saw us and talked to my grandma. Then he looked at me and asked if I would like to be an altar boy. I asked him how. He told us to see him right after the Mass, and he would introduce us to the one in charge of the altar boys. I was so excited, and I couldn't wait to be there at the altar and serve at the Mass. I was only 10 years old then. In the following weeks, I was trained to serve at the Mass, and I was just too eager to learn and serve. I was nervous, and at the same time surprised and doubly happy, because, on the very first Mass that I served as an altar boy, Dad came and attended the Mass. After the Mass, he waited for us and embraced me. He told me I'm already a grown-up boy, and that he is so happy to see me, serving at the Mass as an altar boy. The four of us went to a pizza house after, and ate together, after more than a year. That night, I prayed the rosary fervently, like I never prayed it before. I was thanking God and Mama Mary for that day, the first time I served at the Mass as an altar boy, and having to eat again with Dad, all four of us. Even just for that time, I was complete again. Even after when we came home, I realized Dad is not with us anymore. I was really thankful to God that, even just for an hour, I felt complete again. I prayed the rosary that night for Dad, that God and Mama Mary will take care of him, wherever he may be. I was always happy coming to church on Sunday and serving at the Mass. I go there early on my bicycle to help prepare for the Mass and some needed instructions just before the Mass. Many times, while waiting, Brother Mark, who teaches us about the things in the church, would lead us in praying the rosary. Since I learned how to pray the rosary, I keep one in my pocket as Grandma told me to do so. Some more months passed, and Grandma started not feeling well. The time came, when there were Sundays that she could not join us in going to Mass. When we pray the rosary at night, we could hardly hear her voice, so she asked me to lead the rosary, and every time we finish it, she would hug and thank me for doing so. Several times Mom brought her to the doctor, but Grandma seems to be not getting any better. She became weaker and weaker. Since she cannot do many things anymore, one day I helped Mom to do Grandma's bed. And under her pillow, I saw a picture of Mama Mary dressed in all white with letters at the bottom, Our Lady Mary Mediatrix of all grace. Later, I asked Grandma why is the picture under her pillow. Grandma replied, that was her only picture of Mama Mary Mediatrix, and she wants to keep it beside her always. And at night, she wants to sleep with it, and so she puts it under her pillow so she could have a good sleep. She told me that I could take the picture if I like. I replied, no Grandma, you keep it, so you could have a good sleep. You need it now more than ever since you are not well. One morning, I woke up to Mom's loud cry. She asked me to call 911 and I did. I told the person on the phone that Grandma was sick and Mom was just crying. The ambulance came and took Grandma. I was left at home waiting for Mom and Grandma. Mom called and told me to just eat breakfast, whatever I could see on the fridge. Dad called later, and he said he will be coming to bring me lunch. Mom came home with Dad, and he was carrying with him the promised lunch. Mom was crying and I asked where is Grandma. It was Dad who replied that Grandma is gone. I said no, it cannot be. Dad explained further that Grandma was so sick and that it was good that she did not suffer much from that illness. I cried and embraced Mom, who was still crying silently. She then spoke. Grandma was her only strength and supported her to go on. Now she too is gone. And she embraced me tightly. Dad then embraced us both. Dad did not leave us. At Grandma's funeral, he was beside us. It was another sad day of my young life. Grandma was there when Dad left us. She was almost at my side all the time, probably filling up the space when Dad left. She taught me how to pray the rosary. She was also the means why I am now an altar server. Mom and I will need to learn how to live without her. She was Mom's only family, as she was also an only child and her own dad died when she was just a teenager. Mom said Grandma had a hard time raising her alone and sending her to school, but she managed to finish a teaching course. When Mom started working and earning a good income, she let Grandma quit her job. Mom was born when Grandma was already in her 40s. When Mom and Dad got married and they were able to buy a home, they invited Grandma to live with them, especially when Mom became pregnant with me, and so Grandma was with us since I was born. At Grandma's funeral, my mind was just blank. I couldn't cry anymore. It was as if I already cried all the tears that I could shed. I was staring at how they were laying down Grandma's casket 6 feet under the ground, and covering her with soil. Mom was crying hard and kept calling Grandma's name. Dad had to support her with one arm and his other arm on my shoulder. I'm glad that Dad is with us, but sadder that we will not have Grandma again with us. Back home, I went straight to Grandma's room and took the picture of Mom and Mary under her pillow. I put it on a photo frame, and placed it just beside our picture, me, her, and Mom and Dad, which is on my bedside table. I thought, this way, I shall always remember Grandma's rosary and prayers. Dad stayed with us for another couple of days. He has been sleeping on the couch. Before sleeping, we pray the rosary together in Grandma's room, and I have to bring Mom and Mary's framed picture there. When Dad had to leave, he said he wanted to come back home, and he asked Mom if we will receive him back. I replied as fast as I can, yes. Yes, Dad, please come back. He then asked Mom's forgiveness for all the pain he had caused the family. He also asked me to forgive him for leaving us. I embraced Dad and asked Mom to forgive him. Mom just cried silently and allowed Dad to embrace us. Dad came back a week after, bringing all his things with him. He also brought the news that he was allowed by his former company to come back to work, and so he will just be working in the city. I was jumping up and down with this news. Dad then brought out the cake he bought for me. Today is my 13th birthday, and this is another one of the happiest moments of my life. My name is Paul, and I thank God and Mom and Mary for all that they allowed to happen in my young life. I have a feeling that Grandma is happy too, seeing me happy today. And so, I thought, it is good to keep the 2 framed pictures on my bedside table. Thank you for listening to my story. Please like, subscribe to this channel, share this video, and hit the notification bell so that you get notified of new featured stories on this channel. God bless. Mom and Mary loves